And when you think the storm has passed, sometimes that's when the real silence arrives. Not the calm kind, but the one that echoes your questions back at you. He wasn't running from the world anymore, but rather from the version of himself that the world made him believe he had to be. The expectations, the roles, the labels, all of them were like heavy clothes he had worn too long, forgetting the shape of his own skin underneath. He walked not toward a destination, but away from definitions, peeling back layers of every identity he had borrowed over the years, until only his raw self remained. In this rawness, he found no certainty, but he did find clarity. It's a myth that healing is a destination. It's more like learning how to dance in the dark. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened. It no longer screamed, it whispered. And sometimes it even sang. The lessons it brought weren't pretty, weren't wrapped in any sort of divine revelation. They were messy, like midnight breakdowns and sunrises that didn't make sense. But in that mess, he found rhythm. People kept asking him why he changed. But the truth was, he didn't change. He just stopped pretending. He stopped adjusting himself to fit into conversations that drained him and rooms that demanded a version of him that felt like a mask stretched too tight. The more he let go, the more he realized how much of his life had been about holding on to people who didn't stay, to dreams that weren't his, to stories that never belonged to his voice. And letting go didn't feel like losing. It felt like breathing. He learned to sit in silence, not because he had nothing to say, but because not everything needed to be said. Some truths are better felt than told. He started paying attention to small things, like the way sunlight filtered through his window, the sound of his own heartbeat after a run, the way his chest no longer ached when someone left. These were victories too, though the world never clapped for them. But he didn't need applause anymore, he needed peace. And that's what he began to build moment by moment, breath by breath. You see, real transformation doesn't shout. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or grand declarations. It's quiet, stubborn, and patient. It's in the way you stop answering texts that don't deserve your energy. It's in the way you walk away from arguments that only exist to trap you. It's in the way you choose yourself in a world that profits when you don't. That's not ego. That's survival, that's growth, that's love. He started falling in love with things that didn't require validation, books that made him cry, music that spoke his unspoken words, walks that led nowhere but felt like coming home. And slowly people began to notice. They said he seemed different, calmer, clearer, deeper. But he knew better. He wasn't different. He was finally himself. All the noise had faded and all that was left was truth. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not fight, not argue, not prove. It's to simply stand still and not move, to choose stillness in a world of motion, to rest in a world that glorifies hustle, to be soft in a world that teaches you to be hard. That's rebellion. That's courage. And for him, it became a way of living. By the time the world realized he had changed, he had already written new rules. Rules that didn't require explanation. Rules that honored his peace. His boundaries weren't walls. They were bridges to those who truly saw him. His silence wasn't emptiness. It was a language for those willing to listen. And his solitude wasn't loneliness. It was sacred space, full of echoes that finally made sense. And maybe, just maybe, this is what freedom actually feels like. Not the absence of chains, but the absence of need for anything that pretends to be love but isn't. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. It's quiet and kind and whole. And as he looked back one last time, not out of regret but out of respect, he whispered thank you to everything that broke him. Because in the breaking, he became not someone new, but someone real. This is how the story ends, not with applause, not with closure, but with continuation. Because healing isn't a conclusion, it's a choice you keep making. Every single day. Until one day you forget you were ever at war with yourself. And on that day, when the mirror reflects not just a face, but a soul that's finally at ease, you'll know. You'll know you made it home, not to a place, but to yourself. They say time changes everything, but the truth is, time only reveals the truth. The truth about people, the truth about intentions, the truth about loyalty. And when you walk alone long enough, the silence starts speaking to you in ways no voice ever could. You start realizing how much noise you tolerated in the name of companionship. How much fake love you accepted just because it felt better than being alone. And how many pieces of yourself you gave away hoping someone might stay. But they never do. Because the ones who leave were never meant to carry your weight, and the ones who stay never need to be begged. You start seeing patterns, not in others but in yourself. How you keep loving people who only come close enough to feed on your light and vanish when the darkness shows. You realize that your biggest wound isn't what they did to you. It's what you allowed because you were afraid to be alone. But there comes a point. And it's not loud or dramatic. It's just a calm shift. When your heart says, enough. And in that moment you stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop fighting to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. That's when you begin. That's when you walk with fire in your chest and ice in your veins. That's when you understand that solitude isn't loneliness. It's your power gathering in silence. It's you becoming your own storm. No more softening your edges to make others comfortable. No more shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. No more giving yourself in pieces to people who can't hold even one part of your truth. You rise. Quietly but powerfully, not with revenge, not with hate, but with clarity, with a stillness that unsettles those who once took your silence for weakness. You stop explaining yourself because those who get it never needed the explanation, and those who demand it never deserved the answer. You stop showing up where your soul feels unseen. You stop dancing for attention because finally you know. You are the show. You are the spark. You are the miracle you kept waiting for. The pain, it becomes your blueprint, the betrayal, your awakening, the losses, your purification. Everything you went through wasn't a punishment, and it was a preparation. To strip you down to nothing so you could rebuild from truth, from grit, from power no one gave you but you discovered deep within. You become sacred, untouchable. Not because you're cold, but because you're focused. Because you learned that your energy is currency, and you don't invest where there's no return. This isn't a story of heartbreak anymore, it's a story of breakthrough. A story of a soul who shattered, not to stay broken, but to remember its original shape. And now, as you walk forward, nothing behind you can define you. Not the pain, not the people, not the past. You're not who you were when they left. You're not who you were when you begged to stay. You're not who you were when you cried yourself to sleep. You're becoming. And no one sees it yet, but they will. Because you don't need to announce your growth. Real evolution speaks in your presence, in the way your silence fills the room, in the way your peace disturbs those still trapped in their chaos. You're becoming a chapter they'll never be able to read again. Not because they've lost access, but because you've outgrown the language. So now you stop waiting. For closure, for apologies, for recognition. You've made peace with the unanswered, with the incomplete, with the endings that never explained themselves. Because you've realized your healing never depended on them, it always lived inside you. And today, it breathes freely. This is the chapter where you stop watering dead plants, where you stop sending light to those who dim yours. Where you walk away not because you're weak, but because you finally understand your worth is not up for debate. You're not bitter. You're wise. You're not heartless. You're selective. You're not lost. You're recalibrating. And above all, you're done being a maybe in stories where you gave your all. Done giving love to places that only knew how to take. Done pouring into cups that never filled yours back. From here on, you don't just heal. You rise, you roar, you reignite. There comes a time in every story when silence grows louder than the words that once tried to hold it all together. And that's exactly where we are now. As the journey continues, the shadows that were once hidden behind laughter and routine begin to show themselves in daylight, exposing the cracks we tried so hard to patch. It's in this phase, the second breath of the same heartbeat, where reality stops pretending to be kind and starts revealing truths you never wanted to face. And yet facing them is the only way to move forward. The memories are no longer just flashes. They're entire reels playing in your mind. You remember the way things used to feel, not just the way they looked. You remember the pauses in conversation that screamed louder than arguments, the way someone's eyes looked away when you needed them to meet yours the most. These aren't just memories. They're warnings carved in emotion, teaching you that ignoring reality never saves you from it. You learn that pretending everything is fine doesn't fix anything, it just delays the collapse. And when it all finally breaks, it breaks everything. This part of the story is where you realize that being strong isn't about how long you can hold on. It's about knowing when to finally let go. Because strength isn't in silence, it's in confrontation. It's in crying in the shower and walking away from something that felt like home but treated you like a guest. It's in saying, I deserve more, even when you're scared that nothing better will ever come. And that fear, that's the trap. That's what keeps you chained to memories tied to promises that were never kept. This is the chapter where you unlearn that fear. You stop blaming yourself for the ways someone else failed to love you. You stop thinking that if you were quieter, prettier, stronger, or more patient, maybe they would have stayed. You start realizing their inability to stay was never your fault. It was always their weakness, not your worth. And maybe for the first time in your life, you look in the mirror and see someone worth fighting for, not someone worth changing to be loved. You see, healing doesn't happen in a straight line. It's not a checklist you can complete. It's messy, it's painful, and sometimes it feels like it's getting worse before it gets better. But what's changing is not the pain. It's you. You're no longer trying to return to who you were before the heartbreak. You're becoming someone entirely new, someone who carries wisdom in their scars, not shame. Someone who doesn't beg for love but chooses it with intention. Someone who no longer runs after people who walk away. This is growth. This is becoming. And when people ask you how you got through it, you won't have a simple answer. Because it wasn't one moment, it was 1,000 small ones. The morning you got up even when you felt empty. The night you cried yourself to sleep and still woke up the next day. The moment you said no instead of yes. The day you deleted the photos, blocked the number, and chose yourself over nostalgia. That's what healing looks like. Not a movie scene, but 1,000 silent victories no one else sees. This isn't the part where everything gets easier. It's the part where you get stronger. Where the weight is still there, but your back is steadier. Where you're still scared, but you move anyway. Where you no longer need to explain your pain to anyone just to be understood. Because the truth is, not everyone will understand, and that's okay. You're not here to be understood, you're here to be free. So if you're in this part of your story, where everything feels uncertain, where your past won't let you rest and your future feels like fog, know this. You're not broken, you're becoming. And becoming takes time, takes tears, takes nights where sleep never comes and days where nothing makes sense. But every moment you choose to keep going, even when it hurts, you're rewriting your story. You're proving that endings aren't failures, they're turning points. You no longer need closure from someone who never gave you clarity. You no longer chase answers in places that only gave you questions. You no longer define your worth by who stayed. You define it by how you rose when they left. This is your moment, not theirs. This is where you reclaim the pen. This is where you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. Because the real transformation? It happens quietly. It's not always loud or poetic. It's in the decision to not reply. In the choice to take a walk instead of sending that message. In the way you smile at yourself when you realize you're no longer triggered by what used to break you. That's the revolution. That's what they'll never see, but you'll always feel. And in that silent becoming, in that private rising, you'll find something unshakable. Peace. Not the kind someone gives you, but the kind you create. The kind that lives in your bones, not in someone else's presence. In this world full of noise, chaos, and the constant race to be seen, there are some people who walk silently, not because they are weak or invisible, but because their power is beyond display. These are not the ones who scream for attention, not the ones who post every move on social media, not the ones who decorate their lives with fake smiles and shallow pride. These are the silent warriors, the ones who know their worth so deeply that they don't need applause to validate it. They don't enter rooms to prove a point, they enter and the room changes. Not because of their words, but because of their presence. Their confidence is quiet, not loud. Their goals are private, not public. Their success is inevitable, not advertised. These are the people who understand that real growth happens in silence, that the seed doesn't scream when it turns into a tree and the lion doesn't roar every time it hunts. The ones who know that strength is not in how many people praise you, but in how calmly you survive when no one believes in you. These are the people who are not chasing approval. They are chasing evolution. They are not part of any herd. They are their own path. They don't follow trends, they create timelines. They don't post about their grind, they let the results talk. And even when life breaks them, betrays them, bruises them, they rebuild silently, piece by piece, in the dark where no one sees them, and come out stronger than ever. The world often underestimates silence because it's not loud, it's not glamorous, it's not dramatic. But silence holds storms. It holds resilience. It holds focus. And these silent ones, the Ailt, they are not here to compete. They are here to conquer on their own terms. You will never see them begging for opportunities. They create them. You won't see them asking for validation. They validate themselves. They don't fear loneliness. They use it to sharpen their spirit. They are not broken by heartbreak. They use it as fuel. Every setback becomes a setup for a greater comeback, and every insult becomes the fire that keeps their passion burning. The world might call them mysterious, arrogant, even emotionless, but that's only because the world cannot understand what it cannot control. These people are not born to fit in, they are born to stand out. Not with glitter or noise, but with depth, with discipline, with silence. You don't know what they're thinking, but when they act, it changes everything. You don't see them often, but when they move, they shake the ground. They are not the face of the crowd, they are the soul of the storm. And if you are one of them, if you've always felt like you don't belong, like you don't need to be seen to feel powerful, like you are building something within that the world isn't ready to see yet, then let me tell you, you are not weak. You are not lost. You are not late. You are simply in the phase where real ones grow. In silence, in shadows, in solitude. So keep walking quietly, keep building silently, keep healing in your own way. Because the loudest one in the room is rarely the strongest. But the one who watches, who listens, who prepares, who strikes only when it's time. That one is unstoppable. You are that one, and your time is not coming. It's already here. Let the world sleep on you. Let them doubt you. Let them laugh. Because soon, When your moment comes, there will be no need for explanation, no need for revenge, no need for a comeback post. Just results, just impact, just legacy. And remember this, the strongest storms are never heard, only felt. Be the storm they never saw coming.